All right, so thanks so much for joining this session. We're going to be talking about interactive choose your path activities. This is, like I was saying earlier, this is one of those cool things that you can do with PowerPoint with lots of slide presentation tools, and it uses this one little feature of them that sometimes people don't realize is there. And it's definitely something that you can use for this, but you can use it for lots and lots of things. My name's Matt Miller, the author of Ditch That Textbook and the newly published Tech Like a Pirate. I taught high school Spanish for more than 10 years here in Indiana in the United States. And I am an avid user of PowerPoint and all sorts of slide presentation tools because it's really one of these tools that you can use for lots and lots of things other than just doing regular slide presentation stuff. So and really that's what this session is going to be about, is using PowerPoint in a way that you might not have thought of. So before we get going, I wanted to share this with you real quick. This is part of the Global Ed Tech Academy. It's a project put on by Q and Microsoft. And we're going to have all sorts of these sessions just like this and on a huge variety of topics all throughout the summer. So if you haven't been there, I mean, I guess you probably have, because otherwise you wouldn't have known how to get here probably. But in case you want to check it out, go to the link that's on your screen right now, q.org/Microsoft. And that's where you can find all of the upcoming sessions, but it's also where you can find the recordings too. So, recordings from the sessions that have already been done. So it's really a cool resource, and it's becoming a great, full, rich place to be able to find lots of sessions that that people have already done. We got lots of folks in the chat, so I wanted to do a couple of quick shout outs. I wanted to say hi to Laurel, who's coming to us from Hawaii. Oh my goodness, that's got to be gorgeous and probably hot right now, I bet. Jennifer's from Los Angeles, community college faculty member. Good to see you. Kelly is here, tech coordinator for New Jersey. Sylvia is here from Palm Desert, California. She is a French teacher. Palm Desert, California is right near Palm Springs, right? I've been to the Q conference out there several times, and that is a gorgeous place. Who else have we got here? We've got Gina outside of Detroit, K1 looping teacher. Good to see you. James from Canada, Anne from Chicago, and we've got Andrea from Southern California. So it's good to check in with everybody. I don't know why my slides are like this. Oh, well, that's okay. Okay, so anyway, just wanted to do a quick hello to everybody. And again, q.org/Microsoft is where you go for other sessions and for the recordings. So we're talking about, I'll go back to this first slide real quick, interactive choose your path activities. If I had my way, I wouldn't have used the term choose your path, because I would have chosen the term choose your own adventure. And that's really what this is kind of about, because there were all of these books, and I'm curious to see in the chat if anybody's familiar with these books. Have you ever done these before? The Choose Your Own Adventure books. These were the books. I used to love these as a kid. I like consumed all of these Choose Your Own Adventure books that I could find, that I could get my hands on. I'd go to the library. If my mom was going to like a yard sale or garage sale, I would go along just in hopes that I might be able to buy one. And so the idea behind them is you would start reading the story at the beginning. You'd read a few pages, and then it would give you a choice. And it said, if you want to go up the hill, turn to page 64. If you want to go into the cave, turn to page 45. And then you would turn, and then there's where the next part of the story would be based on your choice. And you would read through it until the end, and the story wouldn't be very long. And then, of course, what was the best thing that you could do after that was done? You go back to the beginning and you read it again with different choices and see what happens. So I absolutely adored these things. They were a big part of my love of reading as a kid. And looking through the comments here, I'm seeing, okay, I'm definitely not the only one who has seen those. Love them, yes, love those books. We had them as a child, long time ago. Oh, Patsy said the Encyclopedia Brown series. Oh my goodness, I loved those too. That's fantastic. And James says apparently they brought him back for a short time, which I didn't realize, but that seems like a pretty smart idea to me. So So the idea behind those is you start in one place and then you have a choice. And then based on your choice, you go to something else, and it's super interactive. What's neat is that you can use slide presentation tools like PowerPoint to be able to create those. And so the big question that comes, or the big thought that comes out of this, I think, is that making choices gives us control. And if you're a student, if you have control over things, that's kind of a big thing, you know? Being able to make some decisions and make some choices really makes things engaging, and it makes it interactive. Another thing that I love about it is that if you make what you consider a mistake, you can go back and try it again. And you can try different choices and see what the outcome would be. And then once you're done, you can see which one was the best choice. This is all such crucial stuff to decision making, problem solving, you know, understanding how to make decisions as a kid and even as an adult. And so that's why I really like these. And what's neat about it is, as a teacher, you can create these for your students to navigate, but as a student, they can create them too. And so that even helps them to think about, what are the choices that I'm setting up for other people to choose? It gets really deep. You know, there's lots and lots of deep thinking that goes into this, which I really, really like. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. And so these are some of the big questions. What can you create to let students choose? The choose your own path or choose your own adventure stories are the sort of like the example that I started running with. But then I started to realize too that they don't just have to be choose your own adventure stories. It could be like a choose your own adventure science lab, where you give them a couple of options to choose. Would you do this or would you do that next in your experiment? It could be, you know, if you're trying to do kind of like a, you know, think through a community service project that you would do. What are the steps that you would take next? And then, you know, kind of let them see what their possible choices would be. But then there's also this question: what can students create to show deep understanding? You know, if they have to set the scene, give the reader some choices to choose from, think through what those possible choices would be and what the experience is that they want the reader to go through. Ooh, that is good stuff, really good stuff. And so that's really what this whole presentation is all about, is how to do those. And so I thought, to start us off here, I would show you an example of what one of these might look like. So this is one that I did on my blog, Ditch That Textbook, when I was talking about how you can make these. And so I'm going to show you what it looks like first, and then we're going to kind of look at it from behind the scenes on how you can create something like this in PowerPoint. So I'm keeping an eye on the chat. I did realize once I got started that if I put the chat up on my phone and I keep my slides on my computer, I can keep an eye on both of those things. So I can see the chat while I'm presenting. So if I get going, this happens sometimes. If I get going and I'm going a little bit too fast and you have a question, or if there's something that I miss, please drop it into the chat. Also, if I talk about something and you have an idea to add to it, like, oh, this would be cool too, or, oh, I've tried this, here's how it went, please definitely do share those in the chat. I love being able to pull things in from the chat and shout you guys out as we go. Okay, so this was just a fun little choose your path story that I put together as an example. And so this is what these could kind of look like. So here's our path, or here's our story, I should say, not our path. You're sitting in the driveway of your house in Indiana, because I live in Indiana. It was easy for me to do this. You're ready to take a vacation and want to decide to go on where to go on a whim, just for the excitement of it. Now, let me stop for just a second and ask. This is another thing I'd love to see from, or in the chat. Do any of you take vacations like that? Or have you ever taken a vacation like that, where you're like, okay, we need to go, let's get in the car and let's figure it out on the way? Or are you so like planning focused that doing that just makes you, like, gives you anxiety just thinking about it? My in-laws have done a lot of those. And so my wife tells me stories of when she was a kid and they would do these trips sometimes where they would just go on vacation and they would kind of decide it as they went. Some of them were better than others. And I'm going, oh, I don't think I could do that. Andrea says best kind of vacation. James is like, I don't think so. Gina says we had a destination, Huntington Beach, but getting there was so much fun just to decide and go. And then Miss P says, I've done it on a drive. Heads turn left, tails turn right. Yeah, that would be cool. I think I just gave Jennifer anxiety. She's like, no. And then Patty says, I wish I was like that. I micromanage. Yeah, see, I'm very much the same way. So, okay, that was just a fun little detour from our story. Now let's get back to it. Oh, and Laurel says, I usually plan, but some of our discoveries have been wandering aimlessly once we get there. But I'm looking forward to being able to go anywhere again. Yeah, tell me about that. That's the truth. Okay. So anyway, you're sitting in your driveway, decide to go on a vacation on a whim, and your house is on a north-south highway. So which way do you turn? Left to go south or right to go north? So I'm going to turn south, or turn left and go south. Now you'll notice that on the slide here, there are these two buttons at the bottom. I'm going to show you how to do these. It's really easier than you might think to make these buttons. So as we're going through this, maybe think in the back of your mind, how is he doing this? How might you do this? So I'm going to click on the turn left, go south button. And so here's what it's going to do. It's not going to do anything. Oh man. Go figure, this isn't working. Okay. If it was working properly, here's what it would do. You would go south and it would go to this. Now we're going to see, this is me just kind of rolling with it. Once I get done demoing this, we're going to dig into this little slide presentation and figure out what in the world is going wrong. So just kind of go with me. Imagine that we clicked on that button and it went here. I can show you how to make it do that. Mine just didn't for some reason. So anyway, we read and it says, you turn left and head south. Hours pass quickly as you're driving on the highway with fairly little traffic. As you head south, you see a small billboard for a scenic lake. And for some reason, it catches your eye and makes you think. What do? Do you exit and go to the lake, or do you keep driving south? Now, sometimes I'll do this in a presentation with a bunch of teachers, and usually it feels like a lot of times I go and it's cold and they're all like, keep driving south, because they want to go someplace that's a little more tropical. So we're going to keep going south. And so we go to this slide. And here's how it finishes. Your intuition tells you to stay the course and continue traveling south. After hours of driving, you start to get close to the Gulf of Mexico. You feel the next week sinking your toes in the sand, walking on the shore of the Gulf, enjoying delicious seafood, and forgetting life's worries. It is truly a relaxing and rejuvenating trip that you didn't expect at the beginning. The end. And of course, like we said earlier, whenever you do one of these stories, what is the best thing to go do after you're done with one version of it? You go down, or you go back to the beginning and you try it again. So let's return to the first slide. I'm going to try clicking it again and see. Oh, that one took me back. That one actually. Okay. So in this case, let's try to go. Yeah, my buttons still aren't working for some reason. This time we're going to turn right and go north. And so on this one, it says, you turn right and head north. You're cruising for about an hour, jamming out to your favorite radio station. Suddenly, traffic grinds to a halt. Doesn't look like it's going to improve anytime soon. Do you wait it out, or do you take the gravel road that sits right next to you? Wait it out. You know, some of us are looking at that picture and we're going, ugh, traffic, all of those taillights. I don't want to wait this out. So we're going to take the gravel road. See if my button works. Oh, that one did work. Good. Okay, so that's how it's supposed to look whenever it works correctly. You turn down the gravel road, still seeking adventure. After winding through some curves and hills, you come upon a gorgeous waterfall with a walking trail. You never knew that this waterfall existed so close to your home. You walk, you take pictures, enjoy the beauty of nature, and it's a perfect start to your adventurous journey. And so again, what do? You return to the first slide and you start over. Okay, so you're starting to see how these all work and how they can work within a slide presentation tool like PowerPoint. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through, I think I know what my problem was, it was that. We're going to go through and kind of look at this from the back end and see how this is all set up. Now take a look at my slides. If you want to make something like this, so imagine in this case, we told a story and we gave the reader a couple of choices all throughout. Now you could make this, you could make one of these just like this, where you do a story and you give the reader some choices. And I'd love to see in the chat if anybody has any thoughts on this. How else could you use an interactive slide presentation like this, where the reader has a couple of choices and based on their choice, you go to a slide with something specific on it related to that choice? Just start to kind of like let your mind go on that. And if you have any ideas, if there aren't any ideas, that's okay, but I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. Oh, James says you could make a game show alternative as well. Yes, that would be so cool. So think about that. It's like, you know, you could imagine asking a question, giving them the choice, and then being able to see whether the answer is right or wrong. That's cool. Laurel says, I've been wanting to do this with students for a while. I'm going to actually do it this year. Sweet. I love that. James says millionaire, like who wants to be a millionaire? Let's see. This is Doke B. Forgive me if I don't know your name. Feel free to type it in so I can get it next time. It says you could have them as an experience to experience an event and choose who to interview, a protester, a police officer, an injured person. Yeah, that would be cool. So imagine you have like a picture of all of these people in a scene, and then they're able to click on who they would interview. It takes them to what the person would say, and then there can be a button that would take them back to the original scene. Yes, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. That's a perfect example of how when you let your mind start to go on the possibilities of, let's make something clickable that displays something, and then it brings you right back to the you know, kind of like the main thing. There's a lot that you can do with this. Oh, your name's Doug. Okay, cool. All right, nice to meet you. So what else could we do? Andrea says, if we end up going back to school online again this fall, I'm thinking this would be a cool way to get kids comfortable with you and the other students since you haven't met in person. I totally agree with that. Yeah, that could be really cool. Kelly says you could use this with a book or a novel and you're reading and discuss the setting and characters. I love that. In fact, I did an example. I might be able to pull it up on the fly. One of the things I think would be cool with that, Kelly, is how cool would it be? Okay, so look at my screen here and you notice that we've got a little bit of our story and then you've got two options. What if students took a story that they were reading and they put the first little part of the story? You know, for instance, I like to think of my example that I made that I may be able to dig out is about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, early on in the story, he gets a letter. Actually, he gets lots and lots of letters from Hogwarts, the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and it invites him to come to the school. So in this, I might put a little paragraph that talks about how he got invited. And then you say, what would Harry do? And you give him two options. One of the options is what actually happens in the story. And then one of them is an alternate ending. And so with the alternate ending, it would, you know, obviously bring you to the end of the story and they'd have to start over from the beginning. But if you think of the story as a whole bunch of forks in the road, and what would happen if the character took another path, that could be a really cool way to do this. Let's see. Oh, Kelly says, I read Harry Potter to my third graders. Please, please, please. Okay, in that case, I will definitely, you know what, let me do a quick internet search here. Ditch that textbook, one story, many endings. If you search for that, there's my blog post right there. Now, I did this through the frame of Google Slides, but you can totally do this through PowerPoint too. One story, many endings, and this walks you through how to do that very thing. This is actually the same idea of what we're doing here, only kind of rearranged in a different way. Here's the Harry Potter story. Hagrid asks Harry Potter to come to Hogwarts, and then fill in lots of details to show what you know about the story. This is if the student's doing it. Harry agrees or Harry doesn't go. Well, of course we know that Harry agrees in the story, but what would happen if Harry didn't go? We click there. Harry decides not to go. He lives the rest of his life being unappreciated by the Dursleys, and the whole wizarding world is less without him. And so see, that's kind of the end. So we can go back to the beginning of the story. Well, what happens if he agrees? Harry agrees and gets on a train via platform 9 3/4. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And so then Harry, Ron, and Hermione and Neville are sorted into houses. And then which one does he go to? Well, of course we know he goes to Gryffindor, but what would happen if he was a Slytherin? Oh, P.S. I think we had somebody join a second ago and might not have gotten your microphone. If you can mute that, fantastic. What if he went to Slytherin? So we click on this. Harry is sorted into the Slytherin house. His ambition grows and grows with his fellow wizards there, and he becomes friends with Malfoy. Ooh. He slips into dark magic and uses his powers for evil. Thank goodness he didn't do that. So do you see how this one's going? See, in our first example, we had 2 choices, and each one of those gave us 2 more choices. With this one, you have 2 choices, and one of them takes you to a dead end, and the next one takes you to the next part of the story. There are so many ways that we can use an activity like this. All right, I'm going to jump back in the chat real quick and see. Oh, Patsy pasted in the link. Thank you so much for that. Doak says you could have them be a military general and give them choices that lead to big wins or losses. Yes. See, that's kind of like with the story. What if you gave them the same options that, you know, a military leader had to make during a war, and you have them think through what would happen if they took the other choice? Oh my goodness, lots and lots of ways that this could happen. Laurel says, Harry Potter would be awfully lame if Harry never went to Hogwarts. True story. I totally agree. Andrea asked, can you put activities in there depending on the choice they make? Yes, absolutely. So Andrea, as I do my demo here, I'm going to show you where you could do it. Basically, by giving them a link on the page that they land on, you could totally do that. And then Gina says, thinking about using a math problem and 2 different ways to get the answer. Think kindergarten, 1st grade. Yep, absolutely. And Kelly's excited to try this. I'm excited too. Okay, so let's start looking at the guts of this thing. Let's look at it kind of behind the scenes and figure out how it works. There is one big key to making this work. It's a little thing that you may not have even realized is there, and it has to do with these buttons. Now, this part right here is just a picture. This part right here is just a text box. This is just a text box with a frame around it. But it's the buttons. That's the part that we're trying to figure out, right? So check this out. I made these buttons, by the way, by going to Insert and Shapes. And all I did with that is, you know, those particular ones are the rectangle with rounded corners. So I just drew in one of those buttons kind of like this. And did you know if you draw in one of those shapes and you double click it, there's a text. It becomes like a text box. So that's where I typed in turn left or south. And then I can take it and I can make the text bigger or smaller, so on and so forth. That's how I made the buttons. So the buttons are just simply insert a shape and then double click it and put some text in. That may have been one of the little things that you didn't know about PowerPoint that nobody ever told you. And you're going, why did nobody ever tell me this? Okay, but that's not the magic of how to do this. Here's the magic. This is the thing that you've been hanging on with me for 26 minutes so that I could finally show you. The magic is taking these shapes. I click on it, and I want to make a link off of this shape. Now, you know how you can hyperlink stuff? If you're in like a Word document and you highlight some text and then you go insert a link and then it can make a link off to another page or something like that. That's really what we're working with here. And so all I do here is I take this shape and I click on it. And now I'm going to right click. Or on my Surface tablet, it's a 2-finger tab. And so once I right click, now I've got all of this right here. And I'm going to insert a link. Now, since there's already a link here, it says edit the link. Let me click on it here so you can see what it would look like if we're doing it from scratch. See, it would say link. And so when I do this, oh, those are recent items. I would click this link. And now notice this. Usually, we do a link to an existing file or web page. Pretty much with any kind of slide presentation tool, this is the way that our links work. But instead, what we want to do is we want to link to a place in this document. This is what I would call slide-to-slide linking. And so with slide-to-slide linking, what it will do is it will let you use that link and click and go to another slide when you click on it. Some people don't realize that this is here. They just think that if we put in a link, it's a link to a web page out on the internet. But the truth is that you can create a link to another slide. So let's start looking at how I put this thing together. Basically what I did here was I gave you the story and I gave you two options. One is turn left and go south. One is turn right and go north. Now let's look over here at some of my other slides. You can see all 7 slides in the whole thing right here. Now what we need is if we turn left and go south, we need 2 options for what happens when we turn left and go south. So if you look on slide 3, that's what I did here. I typed in what happens if you turn left and go south. I wrote a little bit and then I gave you 2 more options, right? That's on slide 3. Notice that on slide 2, this is turn right and head north. And so we write a little bit about that and give them 2 more options, right? Are you seeing where this is going, how this works? So we come up here and we go, okay, turn left. Where are we going to link them to if we want them to turn left? And the answer, of course, as we saw, is this slide right here, slide 3. So what I do is I would right click on this and I would click the link button and I would choose slide 3. And so now whenever somebody clicks on that button, it jumps them straight to slide 3. Now to turn right and go north, that's this slide right here, right? That's slide 2. So now we go over to this one, we right click, we click the link button, and we take them to slide 2. Okay, is this all making sense? I'm looking at the chat and I haven't seen any questions yet, so hopefully you guys are still going strong with this. Again, please stop me at any point if I'm going too fast or if this doesn't make sense. Okay, so then we go down to the next slide and notice that we have this little bit of the story and then we've got 2 more options. This is when we went north and we've either got the weighted out option or the take the gravel road option. So I make this slide and then notice down here, this is the weighted out part. Look at all that traffic. That's slide 4. So weighted out, notice what it says when I hover there, slide 4. We're going to link to slide 4. And remember, the way that you do that is you right click, you hit the link button, and then you click on slide 4. And then take the gravel road. You can see the picture over here with the gravel road. I live in a very rural, out in the country place in Indiana, so we have all sorts of gravel roads. Several of my in-laws that live right near me live on gravel roads. This is like a normal part of my life. So that's slide 5. And so what are we going to do? We're going to take this and we're going to link it to slide 5. So we click link and we would go to slide 5. And we do the same thing on this one. Exit and go to the lake is slide 6. Notice when I hover, it says slide 6 down there. And then keep driving south is slide 7. And so then we want to link that one to slide 7. And so then we've got to wrap everything up, right? Because then we come down to these ones that we created that have the last part. We finish the story. And then like I was saying before, when you get one of these choose your own path stories, choose your own adventure stories, what do we always want to do? We want to go back to the beginning and take new choices. So I always put a start over button at the bottom. And of course the start over button, where is that going to link to? That one's going to link, of course, to the first slide. You can click first slide, you can click slide 1. Either one of those works because they're both the same thing, right? And we do that with all of these. Return to the first slide, return to the first slide, return to the first slide. Okay, so checking in the comments real quick. Susan asks, is this link feature slide to slide available in Google Sheet too? I assume you mean Google Slides. If you're asking about Google Slides, yes, you can do this in Google Slides as well. I keep saying this is kind of like my veiled attempt to try to not name Google Slides, but it's okay that you did. Whenever I say other slide presentation tools, I'm talking about things like PowerPoint and Google Slides and all of those. So yes, you can totally do that. Oh, and Laurel answered that. So And she says, look for slides in this presentation when you create the link. Yes, absolutely. Laurel says, I'm curious how you introduce this to students and specifically how you teach the planning process. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that because that was the next thing I was going to talk about. And then Lori asks, how can you make sure that the kids cannot see the multiple slides view? Okay, I'll touch on that real fast. The way that I would do this is I would share this with students. And of course, when they open this up, they probably can see all of the slides. That's okay. So there's a couple ways I think you could do this. One is you could give students the link to this and then just tell them, hey, put it in presentation mode. So in PowerPoint, that's like clicking this present button right here and boom, you're ready to go. Now, could they see all of the guts of it? Yeah, they can. And that's okay. Two, you could put this up on a projector. Or if you're doing remote learning in the fall, you could do this on a video call with your students and you could run it through a presentation. You could ask them like, which path do you think we should go on? And then take the most popular one. Or a third option is if you do like a station rotation model, you could have one of these set up and then you hit the present button and then just let them click through it. And then that way they wouldn't see it. Those are kind of the scenarios that I could see for actually using something like this. So yeah. Christina, the link to the PowerPoint, I don't have an actual link to this, but if you go to q.org/Microsoft, I'm going to type that into the chat real quick. Oh, there it is, Gina. Oh, she beat me to it. I'm just going to let her do it, is where the recordings are. Yeah, so you can go back and watch the recording again if you want to. I do have, you know what? I do have this, which we talked about earlier. Somebody dropped this link into the chat. So Christina, you could scroll up and you could see, this is my post called One Story Many Endings, which is a version of what we're doing here. Okay. So what was that question a second ago? Because that was exactly where I wanted to go next. Laurel again said, I'm curious how you introduce this to students, how you teach the planning process. Okay, so I'm going to add a new slide down here. This isn't going to actually be, part of the choose your own path. This is just going to be like a planning space for me, okay? So don't think that this is actually part of this whole thing. This is just a planning space. And you could have students do this next part. Thank you, Laurel, for putting that link in. You could have students do this planning process just on a simple sheet of paper. I'm going to do it on here with PowerPoint just because this is a place that all of you are going to be able to see it. Let me put in a quick rectangle, and then I'm going to put in a quick arrow so that you can kind of see. I'm going to use this arrow right here. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be kind of the planning process right here. So check this out. This one right here, the one that we had right here where we went on the vacation on a whim, is basically a 2 choices then 2 choices model. And so think about it this way. This one is, so in this one, it is you decide to go on vacation. And then you have 2 options. You have either north, sorry that that's upside down, or you have south. And then from there, you have right here, if you go north, stuck in traffic. And then you have 2 options, right? You have either wait, again, upside down, again, still sorry. You can either wait or you can take the gravel road. And then if you went south, sign for scenic lake, and then you've got 2 options. P.S. I wanted to tell you about a keyboard shortcut that I love. I'm using the Control D. Control D for duplicate. So if there's something like this rectangle that I want to duplicate, I use Control D, or if you're on a Mac, it's Command D, and it just makes a duplicate of it. Like watch, Control D, boom, I've got another one. that's how I'm making these so fast. And then you may have noticed that when I had these two arrows, I highlighted both of them with a shift click, and then I hit Control D and I had two of them. That's one of my little things that I use all the time to make things go faster. So you had two options. You either had exit or you had keep driving. And so then from there, of course, you have all of your possible options. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, to answer the question, I would have students think through it kind of like this. Think through it visually, either on a piece of paper, or you could even make them a template like this. You could even make them a template like this on PowerPoint, just like I did, and just have them fill in all of the blanks. If you want to keep it super, super, super simple, like, for instance, I know Laurel was just saying, where was it? Especially with younger kids, elementary. If you want to keep it super simple, give them a framework like this. 2 options, then 2 options. You know, like up at the top here, you had north or south. That's 2 options. And then on the second level, no matter which choice you have 2 more options. That's a super, super, super easy way to do this, to keep it simple. And so from there, they could fill all of these blanks in themselves. And then what I always encourage them to do is to number things. So I'm going to let's make this a different color, shall we? Let's make this like dark orange. And so we're going to make this slide 1. This one's going to be slide. See, the next thing you want to do is you want to think about what the slide numbers are going to be. And if you see that, if you kind of number it this way, this makes it really easy to transfer over into a real slide presentation. So number those slides on your planning document. What the world is going on here? So we go to 5, duplicate, we go to 6, and then we duplicate and we do 7. Okay. So you notice with these circles, that's my way of just numbering the slides. So this is what goes on slide 1. This is what goes on slide 2. This is what goes on slide 3. Slide 4, slide 5, slide 6, slide 7. And you notice the arrows are all of the buttons. This is one way for you to be able to plan the thing out. And I think what Laurel mentioned is such an important part of this, is that you've got to have a good plan before students start going and doing this. You've got to have a good plan. Because if you let them just jump right into the PowerPoint and they just try to do it, it's really complicated. So I'm really glad that she mentioned that. Let's see, old time flow charts, Gina said earlier. Yes, absolutely. Laurel says, so plan, then create slides, then add links. Yes, yes, yes. That is the exact workflow that I would use. Or you could do this. You could pre-create a template for them. Notice my template right here. You know what? Let's do this. I'm going to do this kind of on a whim, just for those of you that are in the live presentation right now. I'm going to make a copy, or I'm going to save this to my OneDrive, and I'm going to give you a link. And if you want to make a copy of this one that I've got right here, we're going to make it anyone with the link. Yeah, anyone with the link. And then what you want to do is you want to take mine and then you want to make a copy of it. Okay. So you want to make your own copy. Don't just edit right on this. But I'm going to copy this and I'm going to drop it into the chat real fast. There you go. So what you could do is you could make something like this and you could go ahead and make the buttons and put the links into them and then give the students that template. And then all they have to do is they fill in the text, they fill in the 2 options. They fill in the text, fill in the 2 options. Text, 2 options, and then all of the ends of the story. So there's that. Okay, so this is what that one looks like. This is one choice with 2 options. One choice with 2 options, and then the end of the story. Earlier, we were talking about how if you're studying a story and you want to create new endings to the story, let me show you what that one would look like. That one looks like this. So this is kind of like the same organization. You have Harry gets a letter and is invited to go to Hogwarts. He goes to Hogwarts or he doesn't go to Hogwarts. From there, Harry is sorted into a he's sorted into a house. He goes to Gryffindor, because again, that's the way the actual story goes, or he goes to Slytherin. And you see how those work? And then this one is the end of the story, so you go back to the beginning. This is the end of the story, so you go back to the beginning. That's the way that one looks. And I think in this post, if I remember correctly, yeah, I have a planning template right here. And I even give you some instructions on the side on how to do it. So you start with this question, and then you have two possible answers. And then you go to the next, and then you have two possible answers. And then all of these little red dots show what the slides are that you're going to use for them. And then you can go and link it all together. So anyway, if you want to dig a little more into that organization of it, what if you have a story and you want to make lots of new endings for it? That's kind of the organization. That's the way that that works. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so Laurel says, dumb question maybe. PowerPoint doesn't have file make a copy. Is there a way to do that without downloading? Yes, I believe so. So what I would do is go to File, Save a Copy. I think that you should have that option. File, Save a Copy, or File, Save As. I think, and then Laurel, if you want to check that and get back to me in the chat, we'll kind of, I'm looking at the desktop version of PowerPoint, and if you're working with PowerPoint online, it may look a little bit different. So feel free. Not seeing that, seeing rename. Now, what you could do, that wouldn't be an easy way to do it. Yeah, I think you should be able to save a copy, hopefully. Christina says, I had to click download, and then I had choice to make a copy. Yep. And what you could do is if you download it, then you've got a copy of it, and then no matter what platform you use, if it's Microsoft or if it's Google, if you have that PowerPoint file, you should be able to use it no matter which it is that you use. Okay, and she's going to work around. Okay, cool. Okay, so that gives you the gist of all of this. So with that in mind, and we've talked a couple of different ways, or we've talked a little bit about if we wanted to do this in a different way, you know, like what are some other ways that we could do this in our classes? And Doak mentioned earlier, I think it was him, how you could make like a scene of all of the people that you wanted to talk to. Now that could be really cool. I could even see inserting a picture as the background and then inserting a bunch of people. Now those people could be Bitmojis, they could be clip art, they could even be icons. I got to say in PowerPoint, this is one of my favorite features, is that they've got all of these icons. So if I type in man, well, I'm going to use this guy first. Let's say we create this scene. Let's pretend that there's a background, you know, like they're out on the street or something. And so I insert that guy there, and then we're going to search for a woman. And so let's take, there's lots of them with kids. Oh, we definitely need this one right here. Just in case you're walking down the street and you see someone who is twirling a streamer. You would definitely have some questions for them. So we're definitely going to use that one. Okay, let's add another one real quick. This is just kind of running from, and let's say that we add the one with a little family. Okay, so pretend like this is, we have a picture in the background that has a street. And we have all these people that are walking on the street, and we want to talk to them and ask them questions. I'm going to create a new slide. And so let's say we talk to the guy that's pushing the stroller. And so with that, we're going to put the guy who's pushing the stroller. Watch this. I'm going to insert a shape. And under the shapes, look what they just happen to have. Call-outs that look like speech bubbles. How about that? So he says, I didn't see anything. we're going to take the streamer person. I'm going to duplicate, and that person's going to say, now I'm going to keep these as I didn't see anything. It would be, I think, a much cooler activity if all three of them had something unique. But I'm trying to throw something together for you on the fly really fast. So, you know, I would definitely go more and more in depth. And then the family says, here's what I saw. Now, can you imagine how this could work? We come up here. We're going to take this guy, and whenever you click on this guy, what are we going to do? We're going to go to link, and we're going to link to slide 10. What are we going to do with this one? We're going to link to slide 11. What are we going to do with this one? We're going to link to slide 12. And then on each of these, I would insert a shape. I'm a big fan of the rounded rectangle, so that says go back. And so from there, where's that one going to go? Back to slide 9, link to slide 9. P.S. I'm going to copy that shape, paste it on this one, paste it on this one. And so now we're back here. Now watch what happens. See how fast we did that? Now what happens if I click on the guy? I didn't see anything. Go back. What about the one with the streamer? I didn't see anything. Go back. What if we click on the family? Here's what I saw. Go back. And so they gather all of this evidence, and then maybe at the end, after all of their interviews, you have them write a little paragraph about what they learned based on all of the interviews. Oh my goodness, there's so many ways that we can use these slide-to-slide linking things. This is pretty cool. Sylvie says, can we link a slide to a slide from a different PowerPoint? And the answer to that is yes. So here's how. Now, could it link to a specific slide on another PowerPoint? I think maybe there's a way to do that. But I know that you can definitely link to another slide presentation. So what you can do is if you have another slide presentation, let me pull up another one that I did recently. Here's a slide presentation from another webinar I did on interactive PowerPoint templates. If you grab the share link to that other one, we copy that link. By the way, if you're doing it in PowerPoint, you've got to save it to your OneDrive before you can do this. So now I've copied the link to this slide presentation. In fact, let's go down to slide 3 and let's see if this is going to copy the link to slide 3. I don't think it probably will. But I could come over here, and if I wanted, let's say with this particular one, I wanted to link off to that other one.
Some of my friends said it's because I'm Asian.
I could link to, oh, I think somebody's got their microphone on. If you can mute your microphone, that would be fantastic. Here's what I would do with that. I would click on link to an existing file or web page, and I would paste in that share link to that PowerPoint presentation. And from there, see now, whenever they click on that, it's this one. I click on it, and then now it's going to open up that other PowerPoint presentation. And it just took you to the first slide. So, you know, being able to link to a specific slide on another slide presentation, if you're able to do that, I don't know how to do it, but I think there's definitely a way that you can link to another slide presentation. Okay. What else do we have in the questions? Because I think we're just about done here. Gina says, can you download one slide? Then you have a link for that. Can you download one slide? Well, what you can do with any slide is you can save it as an image. So maybe what Gina's saying is you save that one slide, and then you just stick it into the slide presentation that you're working on. See, with this one, we were trying to link off to another PowerPoint, but instead of doing that, what if we just saved this slide? Right click, I think this is how you do it. I'm trying to remember how to save an individual slide. You go to File, and you go to Export. That's not how you do it. Oh, I've done this a number of times, and I just can't remember off the top of my head how to save one of these. If anybody wants to help me. Save a copy. Yeah, that's it. Save a copy. And then I'm going to save it as an image. And then it's going to ask me which slides do I want. Do I just want that one slide saved as an image, or do I want all of the slides saved as an image? So, Gina, you could save just that one slide that you had in another PowerPoint, save it as an image, and then jump back into your slide presentation working with and paste that image into a slide, and now you got it. That's kind of a workaround that you could use. Yeah, don't download as. Yep. Oh, that was a good thought. Yeah, but it was save a copy. That was what we wanted. So, okay. So we've covered a lot of ground here. You've got a link to my blog post about one story, many endings. So feel free to refer to that. You've got a link in the chat to my example adventure story that I have here. By the way, if you access this, since I have this as an anyone with the link can edit, I'm going to ask that you please not edit the stuff on the screen and actually make a copy of it for yourself. So I'll do that. And then other than that, I think we've covered everything. So I am super excited for you to give this a shot. I bet your students would love the opportunity to click through some of these, whether you're doing remote learning or face-to-face learning. I bet your students would love to be able to create these. And then maybe even if you're on a video call, you know, like a Microsoft Teams video meeting or any sort of video call with your students, if you put this up on your screen and share your screen and let them make the choices, I bet they would love that too. So Gina says, just a quick question, can you not force a copy in PowerPoint? I'm not sure. I haven't learned how to do it yet, but it may be possible. When is my next webinar? Thank you, Andrea. That's so sweet of you. You can go to q.org/Microsoft, and in the sessions, I think that my next one is like July 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, something like that. To be totally honest, I'm getting ready to go on a hiking trip in Colorado with my brother-in-law and about a dozen teenagers. So your well wishes would be very much appreciated. So I would love to see any of you on another one of these. I love doing these. They're so much fun. So I'm going to wrap this up. I had a blast hanging out with all of you. And so hopefully this has been helpful to you. I also did want to show you one thing real fast as I wrap up. And that is this. If you're looking for more practical ways to use the technology that you have, I have these 3 free ebooks that are full of lots of practical plug and play, use in class tomorrow type of stuff. You can get these 3 free ebooks by signing up for my email newsletter. And you can do that at ditchthattextbook.com/101. Just that link there on the screen. And my email newsletter is also full of lots of ideas just like this, choose your own path stories. My email newsletter is full of lots of ideas just like this. So I wanted to share that with you in case you want to get those. Okay. I think we're all wrapped up here. I had a great time hanging out with all of you. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Judging by your nice comments, it looks like you did. So thank you again so much. And Doak says, love your newsletters. Thanks. All right, we got someone who's already signed up. So enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Be safe. And I hope to get to see you on another webinar sometime soon.